Hello and welcome to Tête à Tête, France 24's flagship interview program. Our guest today is Yusuf Tuggar. He is Nigeria's foreign minister and he joins us from Abuja, the federal capital of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
2 months ago, Mr. Minister, a coup took place in neighboring Niger. Since then, ECOWAS, the regional organization currently headed by Nigeria, slapped tough sanctions and threatened a military intervention to reestablish the constitutional order. There was a deadline. It came and went. And it seems now that the threat of military intervention is off the table. Is it off the table, Mr. Minister?
It is not off the table. It still remains. It's an option that is still under consideration, but it is not the only option, nor is it an option that immediately translates to war, as has been misconstrued.
Right. Is it still on the table? Because my understanding is that the Biden administration, the U.S. administration, clearly is not in favor of such an intervention and made it clear to you and to other officials recently.
ECOWAS is a group of sovereign nations. We're not dictated to by anyone outside of ECOWAS. It was ECOWAS heads of state and government that got together and took that decision. And therefore, until or unless ECOWAS itself convenes and takes another decision that otherwise says the military option is off, it doesn't mean it's off. However, as I said, it is not our preferred option. So that is why a lot of diplomatic efforts continue to take place, and we're hopeful that there will be progress. The military option is not the only option, and it is not the preferred option. However, all necessary options have to be considered. So it's simple and straightforward. I think I answered you the first time.
Your president, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, indicated in a speech that maybe a 9-month transition period, like was the case in your country a couple of years ago, would be an option for Niger. Then there was some backtracking. Can you clarify, is there a transition period on the table? Is it one of the options?
What is on the table is what has been declared by ECOWAS and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his capacity as the leader of ECOWAS at the time being. And I think that is clear. I don't want us to keep on going round in circles. I have told you that ECOWAS took a position. You could call it coercive diplomacy, which includes both diplomatic efforts. As you could see, there was a delegation that went to Niger more than once. And then there is also the military option. And that military option still remains. But that does not preclude from diplomatic efforts. They continue.
Right. Speaking of diplomatic efforts, Algeria announced that the rulers of Niger had accepted their mediation, and we know Algeria offered a 6-month transition period. What is your reaction to this development and of Algeria's role in this issue?
Well, we welcome all parties that are seeking for a peaceful resolution to this quagmire or embroglio, if you will, and including Algeria, of course. Algeria is an African country. We share very close ties. ECOWAS relates very well with Algeria and shares a border with Niger, so we welcome their efforts. However, there seems to be some dissonance even with the Algerian attempts at mediation or finding a peaceful resolution to the problem. You can see that on the Nigerian side, it was a bit unclear what was agreed to. So, which is why ultimately the way forward is a peaceful resolution through ECOWAS. And we will continue to do that, but we welcome the efforts of those who wish ECOWAS as well as the citizens of Niger well, and we will work closely with whoever is well-intentioned.
Right. You mentioned that there were still diplomatic efforts. We know some religious leaders went to Niger, the former Vice President, Abdul Salami Abubakar. Can you tell me exactly who is now in charge of the negotiations with the rulers in Niamey currently?
Retired General Abdul Salam Abubakar is a former head of state, not a former vice president. Yes. And yes, he did lead a delegation which also included the Sultan of Sokoto, Saad Abubakar, and they visited Niger at least twice. And yes, there are clerics who also wanted to intercede, and they did visit Niamey also twice. So, like I said, ECOWAS welcomes whoever is well-intentioned and feels that they want to contribute, but ultimately the position of ECOWAS remains the same. They are against this military takeover in Niger, and ECOWAS insists on President Bazoum, who is the elected president of Niger, to be released from the hostage that is being kept, the situation of being kept hostage, and the options of diplomacy as well as the military options still remain.
Is it your sense that, because obviously there's Niger, before that there was Mali twice, Burkina Faso twice, Guinea, that ECOWAS was too lenient in the way they handled those coups, because transitions are on the way with the deadline not often repeated? Is it your willingness as the current head of ECOWAS to say this is not the way things should be done?
No, the ECOWAS, the positions that ECOWAS took with Burkina Faso, with Mali, with Guinea were clear, and they're consistent. So I don't have a problem with that. I don't think it was erroneous to do so. The case with Niger is more recent, and this is when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu happened to also be the leader of ECOWAS. And even before then, at the point of his inauguration, ECOWAS leaders had met and they had taken a bold decision to say, enough is enough, no more coups. So, there are so many circumstances that have changed, and it's a matrix of variables, and ECOWAS has remained consistent. And you can see the problem with military coups, because those other countries that had the military coups earlier, they've already had more than one coup or more than one coup attempt. So coups beget coups. So for people who think it brings about change, I can only use your French terminology and say plus ça change. You think it's remaining the same, but you think it's changing, but it's remaining the same. So, right. And instead of pointing the guns at terrorists, you end up the military ends up pointing guns at each other, which is why we're dead against military coups. We want to tackle the issue of terrorism in the Sahel, in the ECOWAS region, and we remain resolute.
Speaking of terrorism, obviously we see the deterioration in Mali and Burkina Faso, but in neighboring Niger, are you already seeing signs that the new regime is not paying as much attention, and that this could have consequences for Nigeria's security? Obviously, we know about Boko Haram and other groups that could threaten your country. Are you seeing worrying signs that they're not being dealt with appropriately by the new regime?
Well, absolutely, because it was only a few weeks ago, last month, that soldiers in Niger were killed. They were attacked by terrorists. You know, we've had quite a number of incidents. Not to talk about what is happening in Mali. Timbuktu, you know, is under threat at the moment. I understand that the terrorists are on the outskirts of Timbuktu because, like I said, this is the inherent problem with military takeovers. You know, you cannot just continue to hope and pray that some benevolent dictator would come over, emerge, and solve all the problems. When there's a military takeover, chances are others in the rank and file of the military also get an appetite for power, and then this contestation between military officers continues, and you know, they have to try and secure themselves. And, you know, since safety is an issue, then they turn their guns on each other instead of, you know, where they are meant to be confronting terrorists, which is usually in border areas. So you can see that the attention now is in Niamey and it's not in Difa, for instance. So that is always a cause for concern. And this is why Nigeria and ECOWAS remain resolute about, you know, democracy as the best form of government, as the best way forward, in spite of any challenges that democracy might have. If you have routine elections, then it continues to improve.
Right.
And you have that option of voting people out. And the constitutions of all of these countries, the 15 countries in the ECOWAS region, you know, is clear. And, you know, there's no room for military takeovers. And we have to establish that. But we have to do it on our own terms.
Yusuf Tuggar, Foreign Minister of Nigeria, I want to thank you very much for appearing on the program here from Abuja, the federal capital of Nigeria. And I want to thank you all for watching it.